Voice clear? Should be clear. Asato ma sat gamaya tamaso ma ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. The previous verse, we ended with this verse. The awakened ones perceive their perfect self as intrinsically free from defects of change, free from the pairs of opposites, such as light and dark, cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They realize that the self is eternally blissful and unchanging. Now, in the current verse, the verses have been next 6, 7, 8 verses. A little rearrangement has been made in the sense. The initial verses talk about limitations of a jiva, and the final two verses talk about how the jiva overcomes his or her limitations and evolves to exist as a mukta. So, few verses on a jiva we will go through, and then we will dwell on those verses before moving to the last two verses. Verse number 54. Such thoughts as I am doing this or that, I am happy or unhappy, I am slender or stout, and the like are created by the mind of incognizant folk and superimposed upon the perfect self. Verse number 55. Having created a thought, though repetition of such thoughts, man identifies therewith and believes himself to be that, regardless of his true nature. O sages of broad understanding, man is called Manu because he is determined by his mind, Manas. Verily, what man thinks, that he becomes. Under the influence of material existence, the self, who is by birth a god, thinks himself to be a man, and a man he at last becomes. 56, 57 have been kept to the last. Now we move on to 58. Hence, all embodied beings remain subject to worldly existence as a result of ignorance, avidya, which is not knowing the truth. Due to ignorance and wrong knowledge, reality is confused with the matter. Verse number 59. As a deluded king who believes himself to be a plowman, a farmer, takes to plowing a limited field when the whole world is his. Even so, though the ever shining, self luminous self is immensely vast and all pervading, due to the thoughtlessness and lack of discernment of the unawakened mind, man believes himself to be a limited individual thing and lives a limited, diminutive life. Verse number 60. The sages realize that the self is uncreated, unborn, formless self, formless, self existing, changeless, eternal, and pure, while matter is created, born, many formed, dependent on the self, ever changing, transient, and tainted. The ignorant, immersed in worldly existence like a man enmeshed in a dream, sees nothing but matter and believes that to be the supreme, the matter, the objects of the creation to be supreme. Thus, the self, though pure, changeless, and perfect, has the qualities of matter attributed to it by association. Now, the core factor which has been dealt all through these verses is mind. Having created a thought, though repetition of that thought, man identifies therewith and believes himself to be that, regardless of his true nature, said Shiva. How true. First, a child, after it becomes a boy or a girl, looks at the mirror and the first thought is created in the child's mind. The mind starts playing. I am Ashok. I am Sunil. I am Asha. And then I am doing the first verse which we took up today. I am doing this or that. I am happy or unhappy. I am slim or stout. And it goes on. Till the time the first thought is created in the child growing to be a boy or a girl, till the time the first thought is created, for its milk requirement and other requirement, it does not think, it just cries. And it does not deliberate to giggle or to be happy. By nature, it is happy because it is still divine. The moment thought starts occurring in the child's mind, identification with the body mind intellect comes, and the mind, which is the core factor of these verses, comes to play. And the thoughts get repeated, and the repeated thoughts have a strong influence in the child turned boy or girl's mind. Shiva says man is called a man because he is, everything about him is determined by manas. So he is called Manu. It is the mind that creates all delusion in us. It is the mind which acts due to ignorance, forgetfulness of our true divine nature. Repetition of thought about this identity as a jiva makes the human being completely forget his true existence. Enlivened by his mind, or we can say enslaved by his mind, Jiva continues to act as per his mind's dictate and keeps on adding impression with each act and the experience, the impressions of each act. Through mind actions, actions build vasanas, and then the reverse cycle. Vasanas dictate the mind, and the mind acts. And the actions build vasanas. So this is like the chakra vyuha. This is a vicious circle in which man gets stuck throughout his life for several births. A jiva unable to control his mind leads a miserable, disturbed, restless life. A jivan mukta, having mastered his mind, exists in eternal peace. He has got the power to master his mind from any external source. His entire power, his entire joy, his divinity wholly is well within himself. Whereas a jiva has just let loose his mind and become slave of his mind. The two opposite states, caught by mind and free from mind, can easily be visualized with one simple living example of a devotee visiting Puttaparthi, whether during the time Swami was there or even now. Till from the time he starts his journey, visits the airport or the railway station or the road stand, bus stand, throughout his journey, throughout his journey by cab from airport to Puttaparthi, how much his mind influences his thoughts, or his thoughts influence his mind. How much tension about office, about the home, family members left behind at home, about so many other things at home, and irrelevant tensions about getting the cab, traveling, breakfast, reaching there, getting the accommodation, all tensions, thoughts. This is a jiva. And what happens when the same jiva goes and sits in the Sai Kulwant hall and the bhajans start? Especially when Swami comes floating, or even now when this Swami is experienced in essence, in Tattvam. Where is the mind? Where are the thoughts? Where is the disturbance? For those few seconds or few minutes, the same Jiva exists as really free from all bondages in his or her re, sorry, re, in his or her union with God. In one simple situation, the extreme difference between the two has been brought to you. And then the jiva, the ego takes over, the mind takes over as he starts returning. Everything comes back in a flash as if those thoughts, disturbing thoughts, had never left the devotee at all. The example of a deluded king. There is a king, and thousands and thousands of acres of land belongs to him. And thousands of farmers are there to plow the fields. Imagine the king forgetting his supremacy, his sovereignty, and his state, and also forgetting the immense wealth by way of land and the immense workforce which he has. And at his beck and call, suppose the king forgets all of them and takes up less than half an acre of land, and then starts sweating and starts plowing that land as if in the entire world his only given property land is that limited land. What a pity. Exactly, this is the state of a deluded jiva living and acting with his ego. In essence, as the sage from Ananda Kutir says, he is the Shahenshah of Shahenshah, emperor of emperors, existing as the all pervading self, which pervades the entire, in even in this day, when we told about the king, some thousands and thousands of acres. Of course, the kingdom will have a boundary. In a jiva's case, in a human's being's case, the self that he truly is, it pervades the entire creation. Even the space which pervades the entire creation, which is first of the five elements, is a small dot in his existence as infinite anantam consciousness. And how a deluded jiva leads his life? as if the small home, the small office, limited people at home, very limited life, that is what he has, and wastes and deploys all his energy, all his affection, no love, all his hatred, all his sentiments, all his mind on this very limited family, very limited relations, very limited office, very limited circle. Like the story of 10 men when each one counted other nine, leaving himself. Only when one has conquered his mind and realized self, the thought of limited creation does not occur in him. He has all pervasiveness of a realized seer has to be understood this way. The entire earth belongs to him has to be understood this way. Not that he thinks of the earth, thinks of each country, state, and then he experiences that all of them are owned by him. No, he may be living in a Dombivili chart, not sure of his next meal. How he is exists as emperor of emperors. He exists as self, all pervading self. Anantam, Shiva. And while he exists as all pervading self, the other men, they know that the entire creation is pervaded by self. The entire creation has so many continents, subcontinents, or each continent has so many countries, and so on and so forth. And then they come to the tiny family, tiny environment of they themselves. His all pervasiveness or his rule, his be existing as the emperor, because as an emperor does not have to think about his necessities. An emperor does not have to think about his wealth. An emperor does not have to keep reminding of the boundary of his kingdom. The emperor does not have to keep thinking about the thousands of forces and ministers and all working under him. He doesn't have to think about all these things because they are all, he is the ruler, he is the king. Similarly, when he exists as all pervading Anantam self, he doesn't even have to think about the creation. This way, the creation is ruled by him. He is this Shahenshah. If you do not possess a thing, you will keep thinking or worrying about that thing which you do not possess. If the entire creation is pervaded by the self consciousness, then consciousness does not think about creation. Self is uncreated, unborn, formless, self existing, changeless, eternal, and pure. Whereas matter is created, born, many-formed, dependent on the self, ever-changing, transient, and tainted, said Shiva. All the disturbance, all the restlessness in an ignorant mind is only due to this mistaken notion that matter, including our own BMI, is real. Man, aware of the ever changing phenomenon of this creation, the ever changing nature of his own body, and insecurity created within due to the ever changing nature of the creation and of his own BMI, tries to grab maximum within the limited time, limited resources he thinks he has. If only he realizes that the self, he as self is changeless, then where can be any desire within him to run after anything in the world? Nothing in the world can increase or decrease the changeless self. Nothing in the creation can make the changeless self to more changeless self. Changeless self is full stop. Now, having dealt with the limitation of a jiva, when the stage comes in one's life or the one life or the other, for a man to turn to God, to turn to the teachings of the Shruti, and develop intense craving to realize God, then what Shiva has to say on this verse number 56, elevating himself by noble thoughts, he becomes again divine. Remembering me, the all source, he and I are reunited. For all things come from me, and to me they shall return. This is the eternal law, Sanatana Dharma. Noble thoughts, Shiva talks about. Noble thoughts are, but what? Noble thoughts are the third virtue in the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, shat sampatti, virtuous qualities. When one starts remembering, meditating on God, on Shiva, on self, Brahman, in the nididhyasana with the conviction that I am Brahman, wherever he is, whatever he does, Shiva says, such a true seeker unites in me. Remembering incessantly. And for this level of nididhyasana, incessant remembrance, being in the dhyana, being in the nididhyasana, inwardly 24 by 7, except for the deep sleep duration, 6 hours, 7 hours, for being in this one single focused nididhyasana that I am Brahman, essential prerequisite is mumukshatva. Only with mumukshatva, that too not normal mumukshatva, Only with Tivra Mumukshatva, one can start experiencing self in their meditation and dedicate their life to get more and more glimpses of self and ultimately merge with Shiva and exist as Shiva, as pure awareness self. More and more hours. He talked about it, the source talked about it yesterday at the residence of a devotee. A little meditation, a little contemplation, a little nididhyasana, when time is there, after satisfying all other requirements in this world related to job, related to family, related to any other routine ritualistic activities, etc., will not do. It depends how intense your craving is. If you are satisfied with some bhakti, some meditation, some short term experience, then your efforts, your sadhana will be limited. Any sadhaka who is not able to contemplate consistently without losing the momentum, unable to absorb in depth Acharya's course, messages, sessions, etc., 100%, it is true that somewhere that sadhaka has lost that 100% mumukshatva. If irreversible 100% mumukshatva is attained, that is most intense craving that I am living only to realize my true nature self. I am eating, drinking, sleeping, acting, breathing, moving, everything which I am doing, everything has the backdrop of only one goal, only one final attainment, realization or rediscovering my nature as self. If this is not there, then there is a failure in sadhana chatushtaya. And of course, the sadhaka will have lots of excuses at practical level which are very relevant. But if at all, at least whatever is the level of mumukshatva, if at all, just because Acharya is asking the sadhaka to introspect, if the sadhaka or the sadhakas introspect, then they would realize that unless and until they are bedridden, unable to move from the bed, if the mumukshatva, tivra mumukshatva talked about now is there within them, will they not get half an hour daily? Or the Viveka Chudamani posts contemplating reverting 20 minutes, half an hour. With the 13 years completed this May, 14th year now. They have to ask themselves, is half an hour time not available to me irrespective, irrespective, regardless of whatever tough situation I am going through. At home front, at health front, at all fronts, all challenges. You have to look into your mumukshutva, where it is gone. Actually, even suppose we have a timeline at the office front and a project is there and there are n number of activities, or even a daily list of activities to be done at home or at office. Now let us keep nididhyasana aside for a moment. If we have a list of activities to be undertaken today or in a week, it is most often that our mind thinks that they are complicated and they are going to take too much of time. And in that fear, we go slow and we end up not taking up the list and working sincerely to finish the list. It is seen with practical experience of his career, 35, 36 years, that once you get cracking with the list of activities, you find to your surprise that by 3 o'clock you have finished most of the work at office. You are free. So what he is trying to drive home is that it is most often our complex thinking that we will not be able to take out time for nididhyasana. This thinking is more cumbersome. This thinking takes a longer time rather than the real nididhyasana in itself, rather than the real listening, mananam, shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam on day-to-day whispers, day-to-day WhatsApp messages, posts, quotes, blog posts, etc. If you sit really, you finish off within no time. It is our apparent notion, apparent thinking that with all our family responsibilities, challenges at work, at home, etc., we will not be able to take up this. This is only a thought. If your mumukshatva is the same as Acharya's mumukshatva in 2010, will you not be able to take out half an hour, 45 minutes daily, even when the world sleeps at 11 o'clock midnight? You will have to think about it. If you respect his words and if you revere him for whatever he has given to you, and if you can take these words seriously, then you will have to think. Otherwise, all your excuses he has to hear helplessly and keep quiet. Helpless, totally helpless. Even Swami was totally helpless. When his own students, when his own devotees were going astray, upon realizing the self, the verse says, everything, each being emerges from the source, and one day or the other, each being has to retrace his source and merge in source. Everyone is bound to retrace their source and merge with Shiva, light self, pure awareness. But depending upon the backlog of karmas and depending upon the level of purushartha and precisely depending upon mumukshatva, some may take few years, some may take many births to retrace to their source. 57th verse, last for today. Truly, those who know the truth declare that the self is all witness beyond the sphere and matter. It is the universal enjoyer, deathless, omnipresent, perfect, and ever free. Knowing the truth, what is the truth? Knowing the truth is not knowing like you know any other thing. Knowing the truth is jnanam or chit. Knowing here is pure awareness. Knowing here is realizing and existing as Shiva. Only he who exists as self can say from his existence that he, the self, is witness. That too, this line also he can say after opening his eyes and coming down several steps below. He can say that, yeah, as self, I am the witness consciousness. Witness here does not mean that he opens his eyes wide and keeps on witnessing everything happening around the world. Witness here means that he does not involve in any aspect of creation. The witness stands aside in the street and just keeps seeing without involving. Witness here is not active witness, it is passive witness. It means that I, the self, I am not involved in anything which is going on in this creation. If you say I am involved, you have seen me involved, well, it is my BMI which may be intensely involved, not me, the self. The self, as Shiva says, exists beyond all matter, all objects. Deathless, of course, no birth, hence no death. Perfect, perfect. For perfection, if you have to take a standing example, is the master before you. When it is about the sessions, when it is about the flow, when it is about the bhajans, when it is about the practice, when it's about his attire, when it's about his performance at home, at work, and as Guru. Universal enjoyer. What is this enjoying? How self enjoys? As self, he does not enjoy the universe. He is the universal enjoyer. There is a lot of difference between the two. He does not enjoy in the universe. He is the universal enjoyer, Shiva says. That means in all states of consciousness, he is the source of all joy that is possible, that is felt, experienced by anyone in the whole creation. So, universal enjoyer can be rephrased as ever in joy, ever the source of joy, of all joys in the creation. After concluding this, he sees whether an appropriate quotation can be taken of any realized master to echo the same essence which has been expressed in terms of universal enjoyer by Acharya. And of course, above board, Maharaj Shivanandaji has to be existing as Shiva, to be even able to express what he expresses through the lines coming up in terms of joy. As a sannyasi who has not realized cannot, this expression cannot come from that monk. Quote, there is an eternal, unchanging, immortal vastu or essence that is independent of the body and mind, and that is beyond the time, space, and causation. It is Swayambhu, self-existence, Swatantra, independent, Swayam Prakash, self-effulgent. It is Satchitananda, existence, conscious, bliss, absolute. You can attain the immortal abode of peace and bliss only by realizing the supreme reality, universal enjoy. All these descriptions of the state of self in Shiva Rahasya are for the sake of mumukshu sadhakas to be in awe, to get awestruck, and to get fired up. Whether you get fired up or not, it is only known to you. The purpose is for you to get fired up to reach that state. However, the sage who reaches, who exists ever in that state, call it pure awareness, call it universal enjoyer, call it light, he is unable to open his mouth to describe that state. Every time his disciples have to be taught about that state, a realized master has to come down several levels below his pure existence level. Then only he is able to pour on this sacred Shiva Rahasya. Then only these 40, 50 minutes, whatever, this pour has emerged today. Otherwise, all is possible is supreme silence, Maha Mauna. The discourse is over, and he must say unconditionally, whatever your situation was, whatever compelling circumstances situation was, all sadhakas should have attended today at Kutir, because possibly, as things stand now, this is the last session at Kutir in Muscat. You have not even realized this, that this is the last session at his Kutir. For whatever he has given you for 13 years, at least you owed this to him by being present in Kutir today, all the three of you, and attend and take home this Shivaras. No doubt your situations may be compelling, but it will be compelling, it will be challenging throughout for many several years. Your master is leaving. Unless some miracle happens, he is leaving. unconditionally, without any thought. You should have faced all the challenges, all the compelling situations. You should have come here today. You should have realized that, oh, this is maybe the last session. When this thought comes with full intensity, it can overpower all the situations at home for 1 hour when the day has just dawned. If we had told Guruji, our work starts at home, so better you have at 5 o'clock, we will come. We would have had at 5. We could have been back home by 6:30. Now it is gone. It doesn't even know that whether you realize what you have missed. As transcendental Shiva, he is above all these things. But as Guru in form, it pains him a lot that what all he has given and what is the situation. Now he will be out of sight forever. All of you are in south, he is in north. There is a lot of gap, distance between the north and the south. Where we will meet, when we will meet, whether we will meet at all, who will die first, we don't know what to say. Any excuse for not coming is not an excuse in reality, considering that this is the last. We started in May, we are concluding in May, last day of May today. No words. You could have given your presence as your dakshina to him for whatever he has given to you. Stay blessed wherever you are. One day, this birth or next birth or some birth, you will realize your divinity. This master may not be there at that time to see and to dance in bliss that my sadhaka has attained in the self-realization. Only if you exist as Guru, you will know this way. Otherwise, you will not. Let him go back to his transcendental state to be above all these things. Blessings, love. And none of you have even attended online. The other two, height of it.